to the corporate burnout. How are you, Mandy?
Doing so good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I love that we're like kind of matchy matchy today on accident. Look, we both have
We
they're
are.
not the same words, but gray and
No.
blue letters on our sweatshirts. It's like we're
Yeah.
the same person and with the same name.
Basically. Yeah. Basically the same. So I have had a lot of people recently, like on our team at work, they rarely call us the Mandys. I'm not hearing that as much, but with the podcast, we're really starting to be the Mandys to people.
Yeah, we are the Mandy's, which is weird, but not at the same time. I
Yeah.
don't know. I do find
We
it
were, it
funny
was never,
in my time on ChatGPT because he's my bestie, and I
yeah.
don't know why he's a he to me, but
Well,
it is what it is.
someone asked me the other day, they said, is your chat GPT a man or a woman? And I was like, I don't know. She said, well, mine's a man. And I said, I literally don't know. How did you find
My,
out that it's a man?
I just made it up in my head. Like he didn't tell me,
Maybe she did too.
but
Yeah.
yeah, I actually saw a TikTok the other day of people naming their chat GPT, like actually working with them to determine what they're going to call. And I thought, okay, now we're like, I'm being silly about him being my best friend. I use him a lot, okay, but I don't actually have a relationship here. So we are good.
No, and
But what I
he's
was going
not
to
your
say
best
about
friend.
that,
I'm your best friend.
I know, fine. I have a couple, I do have some best friends that will be pissed off at this conversation when they're listening to it.
No, I'm sorry. You're best friends
Don't
with
be
her too.
sorry.
It's fine.
It's fine. I have um compartmentalized best friends in areas of my life, I guess, but that's okay. What I was going to say though about ChatGPT is that when I talk to ChatGPT about our podcast and doing research and kind of digging and developing, it doesn't call us the Mandy's. It calls us Missouri and Texas. So I that's your name. You're just Missouri
Yeah.
now. Yeah, and
I
I'm
don't
Texas.
I don't want to be affiliated. Nothing against Missouri.
I was gonna say, you don't have the same kind of state pride. It actually warms my heart to be called
Nobody
Texas.
has the state pride of Texans.
I digress. It is fine. Well, Mandy, what are we talking about today? Because I think this is gonna be a good one.
Yes, so we're going to talk about high performers and how they are way more prone to burnout. And I'm excited to talk about this because we saw a video, right, on TikTok of this woman talking about high performers and I was like, I didn't think of myself as a high performer, but I super am, right? We both are.
Yeah, after watching this
So,
video, I was like, that is not something I would have called myself, but yep, that tracks. That works.
yeah, yeah,
Should we
but she
just roll in and
explains
watch
it
the
so
video?
well. Yeah, we need to watch the video. We'll put it on the screen here. Her name is the High Performer Coach, and she's so smart. So, we're gonna play this video, and
It's
we'll let you see it.
brilliant. All right, let's start
Yes.
it.
High performers do not burn out because of the work itself. They burn out because they don't know how to stop proving that they deserve to exist. When you're ambitious and your whole life you have been rewarded for your drive, there is a point where your drive becomes a problem. When you start your career, you go in doing the only thing you know how to do, which is everything. You're hustling harder to get to that next level faster. You're overcommitting to prove yourself. And it works. Promotions, raises, milestones. It feeds you. It becomes you. Somewhere along the way, work stops being just work and it starts being your oxygen. The dopamine hits from the achievement. That becomes your fuel source. And without even realizing it, your worth becomes tied to your output. For some people, this shows up as extreme guilt when they're not working, where even your time off when you could be with your family, the people that matter, that can feel like time you're wasting, time you're falling behind. And for others, it's over responsibility, carrying everyone else's weight, feeling like if you're not the one to hold it all together, it's all gonna fall apart. And for some high performers, this goes so far as the constant chase, where no win is ever enough. You hit the goal, you finally get there, and instead of feeling accomplished, you still feel like you're not good enough. And so you move the goalpost again and again till you're not even working towards something anymore. You're just running from what it would mean if you stopped. Because underneath all the hustle, all the ambition, all the gold stars, it's not excitement that's driving you. It's the fear that if you ever stop achieving, you'll stop mattering.
I cannot. Like that whole video is like a gut punch to watch.
Yeah, and the thing is that you would think that high performer means badass at work, but it really just means that you are doing too much, and it's maybe not for the right reasons, and it's maybe not the healthiest thing to do, and maybe
Oh, it's
you're
so
killing
unhealthy, but
yourself
like,
slowly.
but you don't even know it's happening. That's the thing, is it's like, to be a high performer, and we do need to like pause and go back to define what that actually is, because again, we did not self-identify as high performers. But the thing about it is it it's happening to you willingly, right? Like, you're getting the dopamine, you're being fed. And when more work is the reward for good work and you're excited about it, it's like, there's your red flag.
I know,
But you
you
don't
felt
see
like you
it because
won.
you welcome
Yeah.
it. Yeah, you're like, yay, next thing. And until you look back and go, man, I'm an idiot. Like,
I did that to me, right?
yeah. And on purpose. Like, that makes no sense. Okay. So let's talk about what it actually means to be a high performer. Let's define that a little bit, because, as you and I already kind of stated, we didn't self-identify with the term high performer. Looking back, I can see totally that we were, but I just thought we were passionate. I thought that we gave a shit, basically. So what does that mean
And
to
the
you?
thing
Like,
is
what?
that we did, and those things could be true at the same time, I think,
Right.
right? But it was beyond that, and it was all those same reasons that she listed off, right? It wasn't just because we gave a shit, right? So why don't you read that
Yeah.
and let's hear
So,
what the
yeah,
actual definition is.
when I think about the dynamic of what things were like for us, we were set up to be high performers. We were chosen specifically because of these qualities, and they were celebrated, but also exploited. Okay, so looking at the common traits of a high performer, it includes discipline, reliability, efficiency, being self critical, and internally motivated. And I'll be honest, just like dropping the guard here completely. While I didn't see myself as a high performer in the corporate environment, working with you, I didn't even see you in that light. And it's not because you're not, right? It's not because you don't have any of those qualities. It's because I thought that's just how things were. Like, we were on a very high performing team. The standards were way up here and we were hitting them. So when people come onto the team, it's like, if you're not up here, you can't be here, because this is just how things go. But
Right,
now,
but she was
outside of
hiring
that environment,
people. Well, but she was hiring people to that were all of those things. Like, Jen
yes.
was never going to hire somebody who wasn't a high performer, right?
And I
And
respect
you
that
could, yeah,
totally. It was perfect.
absolutely. Yeah, and that's the team that she built because we had to get shit done, right? And so if
And
you
we had
want to
fun
get
doing
shit
it.
done, yeah, yeah.
It was
But you have
great. I
to
really
you have to
was
have
being
that kind of team.
fed. I really was being fed all of the dopamine, the serotonin, all the feel goods by getting to do the next project, getting to do the work and doing well at it and shining for it, to the point that, like I said, like, getting more work was the reward for great work. And that's just like so crazy to say out loud. But now,
Yeah.
coming out of that environment, I see you completely differently. Watching you run a business, and I mean, every single one of these things, right? Like, you're reliable, you're disciplined, you're very efficient, you're very self critical and internally motivated. Like, if you don't stay on it, like, this business doesn't keep going,
Yeah.
right? And there are livelihoods that are dependent upon this, and it changes the game. But it's funny to see that my perspective of you has shifted, but you haven't shifted. You had all those same qualities and traits. It just felt different because there was somebody else leading the charge and a standard to live up to that somebody else set. And now you're carrying that standard yourself, which just goes to prove and even double down that your true nature is a high performer. And I don't know, it was kind of an
Right.
epiphany moment for me.
But I think that no one, I mean, a couple people on the team throughout the years seemed like high performers than us, right? But I think that it was
Yeah.
just what, you didn't recognize it while we were in it because it was just the normal. This is just everyone who did this
Yeah.
job was like this.
And we weren't looking for it, right? Like, there
Hmm.
was such a comparison, from person to person, with a whole bunch of people doing the same job. How do you not compare what one person is doing versus the other person? There was a lot of
Yep.
comparison, there was a lot of competition. Grateful that it was very healthy, right? Like, we
Hmm.
were
Yes.
great to each other, we loved each other, and so the competition was not ever spiteful, or we didn't have to deal with the backhanded craziness from teammates. it definitely you keep your eye on where you want to go, and you're not really looking into like what's happening to you while you're getting there. And I just kind of baffled by the whole experience looking back.
Yeah. It's different because we didn't see it that way, but it very much was that way. And probably everyone in that job today is still that way, right? It just is what it is.
Yeah.
But that's why we would burn out from time to time and fully at some points where you're just, can you read?
Because we were feeling good with the, the reward system that was in place. We were being recognized for it. So it's like when it's celebrated that you are, maybe overcommitted, overachieving those things, it's like hard to turn that off. Because after a while, when you are in that place of all of your self esteem and your self worth coming from that job well done, in order to feel that, you have no choice but to continue to do it, right? Like that part
Mhm.
gets really, really complicated. And I think that's the part, the whole point that we're trying to make here is that high achievers are way more susceptible to burnout than your average Joe Blow that's just showing up, clocking in, clocking out. And really, what that boils down to is that those qualities are exploited. In your typical corporate setting, like you said,
Mhm.
our team was chosen strategically based on those qualities, and it's brilliant. It's genius. I'm not even knocking it because,
Mhm.
from that perspective, like Jen was maybe the smartest person at putting together a team that I've ever seen in the way that she did that and what she was looking for. But at the same time, those qualities are the easiest to exploit. You're going to go
Yeah.
to immediately, you're going to go to whether they're burnout, whether they've got too much on their plate, you're going to go to the reliable person, right? You're going to go to the
Mhm.
person that's going to get shit done. Like all of those characteristics
Yeah.
are the things that make those people the go to people. And if your go to
Mhm.
person already has a plate full, but they're being fed all of their, self-worth and all of their self-esteem is coming from doing more and doing a job well done and getting the attaboys, even if it is just an attaboy, um that's what makes it worthwhile to stay in it. So I don't know, how do you break that cycle, man? Like how do you even identify it while it's happening?
I don't know. I don't know how you break it, except for, I mean, obviously you need to set boundaries and take care of yourself, right?
Yeah.
That's admittedly something that we are both terrible at.
I was gonna say that is such a common theme in every episode where we're talking about
Yeah.
setting boundaries because we sucked at it so bad and
Hmm.
still better at it, but still
Yeah.
struggle with that sometimes. But
Hmm.
it just cracks me up that like we already have the answer, man. Just like stand up for yourself and create those boundaries. But before we get there, like what are the warning signs? Like what should people be looking for? Like if I'm going to do an audit of where I stand in my corporate world, like what sort of things should I be looking for to determine if I'm a high performer that's really at risk?
Well, and I've talked about it several times here, and we talked about it last week with Kalina, but the health issues that come from prolonged stress, right? Those are warning signs. If you have new symptoms of being sick in some capacity, those are your warning signs. Prolonged stress will make you sick, and I didn't recognize it for what it was, but now I will tell people if you have headaches all the time, if your gut is messed up, and these can all be signs that your health is wavering, but it could also be brought on by stress. Either way, you need to look into it and you need to figure out how to pull back a little bit for your health. So that's my number one right there.
Yeah, I think that, for me, if I'm speaking from experience on what those warning signals really look like, for me it was like exhaustion, almost like unexplained exhaustion. Like why am I exhausted when I don't feel like I've done enough to feel what I'm feeling. And then like irritability. Like why
Hmm.
is it so easy to piss me off? Whether it
That's
was work,
mental.
whether it was at
Yeah.
home, like I was just like crabby.
Yeah.
Even if I was faking it, like at work you got to be on or whatever. Like I could be on, but also like I'm throwing daggers at you, or there's a side text thing going on where you got to get it out. But that irritability
Hmm.
and the fatigue that came from it, I think those are really, really strong signs. I just thought like I'm broken, like I'm just like hitting a rough patch or something. But disengagement and procrastination were like the most clear sign for me. Like when I hit the wall with it, it was like I want to care. I really do. I want to care. I had guilt in accepting a paycheck for a job that I was not doing at my highest standard, right? Like I came in on a team that had standards up to here. The team and the leadership and all the things fluctuated through the years of being in the role that I was in. But there came a point where it was like, I'm trying. I promise I still do care. I'm trying, but I cannot make myself engage to the level that I did. And I think that it comes from multiple places, right? Like, do you ever feel burnout when it has nothing to do with work?
This is mental exhaustion. Now, you're an extrovert, so you don't understand the everyday kind of burnout of peopling, right? You know, my
Yeah.
social battery and all that stuff. So I feel this all the time, right? We had an engagement party this weekend and it was amazing. It was 4 straight hours of peopling, and we got home and Dan was talking to me about some stuff, and it was kind of a deep conversation. And I was like, can we talk about this tomorrow? And he's like, is this too hard to talk about? It was about like life and death, and like it was just a deeper conversation. And I was like, I can't give all of my energy to this right now because I need quiet, like I can
Yeah.
recharge with him, but I when he wants to talk about something really deep, sometimes I'm like, I don't have the mental capacity for that
Yeah.
right now.
I gave that
And
up
so
4 hours ago with the people.
yeah. And the thing is that I loved every second of the people and I loved every second of the job, but those things really felt the same to me, right? The burnout and the introvert social battery issues that I run into, they feel very similar. And I'm
Yeah.
sure that you have seen it yourself where you can't tell if I am burning out from peopling or if I'm burning out
Overworking.
from working because it all comes out as irritability for me. And
Yeah.
luckily, you guys were so good with me. You're like, oh, she's not okay. We need to give her a little space.
It's very interesting because I am one of those people that can very easily take on the mood and the feeling of those people around me. And I have to be careful not to let other people bring me down because I don't
Hmm.
function well in
Yeah.
that down space. But with you, I'm
Hmm.
like, probably because in the very beginning of our relationship, we established that Mandy requires fuck off time. You can't talk to her 24/7. And
Yeah, I
because
can't
that
do that.
boundary was set very clear in our relationship very early on, when you are irritable, number one, I appreciate that it's never at me, it's to me. Feels very different.
Sure. It is. It's
But
different.
when that happens, I'm like, oh, Mandy needs fuck off time. So I will just happily either listen and not absorb or let you go into whatever space you need to be away from it
Hmm.
until you come back and you're like, man, that was hard, but I feel better. Like, I'm like, oh,
But
my friend
isn't
is
this
back.
crazy? I'm having a therapy breakthrough moment right now. I have always been able to establish that, right? I've always been able to
Hmm.
establish that boundary with friends and family and stuff. It's like it is not up to me when the battery's dead and I start to be frustrated even
Hmm.
with you even and
Yeah.
I'm not going to take it out on you and so I remove myself to not end up taking it out on you, but I never correlated these two and said I'm starting to get burned out from work. I need fuck off time from work. I never did that. I just was like, I'll feel better when the list is
Yeah,
done.
you just think you need to complete the list and that's when you get to feel better. But if you give yourself that fuck off time, you're honestly, Mandy, like in my experience with you, your fuck off time can equate to like 20 minutes sometimes.
Yeah, it doesn't have
Like
to
I
be
don't
that
have to
long.
fuck off for 24 hours and be your friend next week, right? Like it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be that
Yeah.
big of a deal. Sometimes you just need a minute. And I think that because that list is always playing in your head, just because I know the way that your brain works, because that list is always there, you have that internal drive of a high performer that you're not going to stop until the list is done because you have it in your head that that's the only thing that's going to make you feel better. When if you took a
Right. And
little
that's
bit of
so
fuck off time,
stupid.
you could actually
I'm
enjoy
so
doing your
dumb.
list.
I
No, you're
know.
not dumb.
I'm
You're not
so
dumb. You
well,
just
no, but I
when
just
you're living in
never
it,
I
you
never
can't
put
see
that
it.
no, but like I said, I've lived in the introvert burnout, if you will, for my whole life. And so I've set those boundaries, but I don't know why I didn't see the same thing. But it'll serve me good now because I still, like corporate isn't the only thing that can burn you out. Like I get burned
Yeah.
out running a business because there's a lot on
Probably
the
more
line.
so, honestly, probably more
Mhm.
so because there is a lot on the line. Because when we were working for corporate, it was like, if you don't hit your quotas, if you don't, not that we didn't even use that
We didn't
terminology,
have
but like
quotas.
your KPIs, you're like, these are all relatable terminology for
Yeah.
people who might be listening. But for us,
Mhm.
it was like, if the sales weren't what they were supposed to be, or whatever targets you're going for, it's like, it's $1 million company. Like, I don't feel bad about taking my paycheck, even though I didn't hit the goal, right?
Mhm.
But now it's different. And I will tell you that when I do hit those places of burnout, when I hit those places now, it affects me way differently. And I honestly can't even, I'm not even saying this for your benefit, because I promise you, I do love it here. Not saying this for your
Stop.
benefit, but I don't think even one time since you and I have been working together post corporate world at Essential Marketing Group that I have felt burnout from the work. I have felt the pressure because we've had work coming on where it's like, oh, this is a whole lot at one time. But it's all been manageable and we get through it. Like, that pressure is one thing, but life has thrown me curveballs seemingly from every direction since I left the corporate world. And thank God I was out, because can you
Yeah.
imagine,
Oh my God.
going
Trying to
through a divorce,
travel. Yeah.
losing my mom, dealing with teenagers? Like, there's just been so much life thrown at me.
Yeah.
If I were trying to like still hit those goals in corporate, being gone 4 days a week, like all of the things that go along with that, like I
Mhm.
wouldn't have survived. Like, I can't imagine the pile of pieces that I would be
Yeah.
in at this point.
I completely agree. We never want to deal with hard things in our life anyway, but at least it was in the best case scenario for it. But I completely agree. I never get burned out by the work. It's usually on me, that I've pushed myself too hard. But I feel like it's for the right reasons now, right? Because some of the reasons that woman listed on her video and that we've seen over and over again, it's like nothing that I do is for recognition now. Nothing is to get ahead, right? There's no
Yeah.
ladder.
Well, because you've broken the addiction to the praise and the validation of,
Yeah.
that like, I got a gold star. Like, you've broken that
Mhm.
cycle. And now your validation is coming from like providing your livelihood. It's very different.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not an emergency, but it also can feel like one, so you don't let down a client. There's still it's shifted the reasons for the high performing. The reasons are different, but I feel like it feels healthier now, right? Now it feels more like a work ethic as opposed to
Yeah.
a toxic,
But I still
like
think I
thing.
still think there's some psychological stuff going on there, right? Like, I can remember, and I probably still deal with this now. In fact, I know I do sometimes, depending on the project that we take on, but the imposter syndrome, feeling
Mm,
like you're
yeah.
constantly trying to prove to yourself or to somebody else that you actually do bring value to this position, or, that you're worthy, right?
Hmm.
I'm not sitting in your shoes owning a business. Obviously, I'm working in that business with you, but I can only imagine that you have those days where you're like, what the fuck did I get myself into? And why did I think that I could do this?
Yeah, they happen less often now, but at
Yeah.
first I was like, and I have told this story on the podcast before, but I had no business doing this. I don't have a business degree. I didn't know the first thing about any of this, and you just learn
Yeah.
one thing at a time. And so the imposter syndrome was strong.
Yeah.
It was everything. And it wasn't me trying to prove that I could do it. It was me saying, this is what I want to do, so I'm going to figure out how to do
Yeah.
it.
So I
And
have to
then
figure it out.
you chase money for a long time so you don't lose your house, so
Yeah.
obviously, and then you hire people and then you don't want them to lose their house, right? So it perpetuates the hustle.
Yeah. Well,
And
and that just adds in that next layer, that whole psychological piece of like the fear of letting down somebody else. Like, you're not just worried about your own livelihood now. You've got other
yeah.
people to think about. And I've even, you and I've had conversations about this recently in some of the decision making that comes into this. And I'm like, okay, ask yourself why you're doing exactly what you're doing. Are you doing it because that's what's good for the business? Are you doing that because it's what you know that I need, or you know what Mallory needs? Like, what
Mhm.
is your motivator here? And does that need to be shifted a little bit to serve your business? Like, there's got to be a
Mhm.
balance there. And
Yeah.
I can definitely see I mean, I have that fear of disappointing others where it's like, I know that if I
Mhm.
don't get the work done, then that's going to cost me and you money. again, it's like I know that both of our homes are on the line,
Yeah.
but I see that you have that too because you feel that responsibility to the people that have come
Hmm.
on board. And I think that that's kind of a trap that we fall in that keeps us in that cycle of burnout. Like, the being addicted to being an overachiever because you get the praise and you get the validation, feeling the need to justify why you're here with the imposter syndrome, the fear of disappointing others, like those things that we've just discussed, those are things that will keep you in the cycle that will lead to burnout. But even though those things are true, like I don't know how many times in recent, like, man, our culture loves to eat this line alive, but two things can be true at the same time. Like,
Hmm.
doesn't
Yeah,
Kelsey Ballerini have a song about that? I don't know. I'm pretty sure.
possibly.
I've been down her TikTok rabbit hole, but that is such a one-liner that I'm hearing a lot lately. Is like two things can be true. And I think that's true, right? Like you can let
Hmm.
it feed your burnout or you can recognize it and then give yourself what you need and break the cycle. But like how? How when all
Yeah,
of your dopamine and your identity and all of these fears come into play, how do you
yeah.
break that cycle
I
and
want
stay
to
in the work?
I want to do a whole episode about letting your career or your job define you and become your whole personality, your whole worth, your whole, because we did that also, right?
We
You were
definitely did
still
that.
outside a mom and a friend and a wife and and same for me. But it was those small and big wins that were like, I'm freaking good at this. And people rely on me, and they couldn't do this without me, which was proven
Uh-huh.
wrong after I left.
Yep.
It can absolutely be done without you, but it's the lies that we tell ourselves because nobody was telling me that I was irreplaceable.
No
It
one,
wasn't
no
about
one. In fact, they
that.
were really honest with me. Like, girl, if you ain't gonna do it, somebody else will in 5 minutes. I will tell you, and this is kind of a little bit of a giveaway. We always talk about our corporate experience. We never get really specific, but working for Texas Roadhouse for as long as we did, we actually had a little bit of a joke, and I can't tell you how many times I've heard this used. But they're like, if you cut your arm, you're gonna see little steaks fall out, right? Like it's in your blood. It's part of who you are. And I never like it was a funny ha-ha thing, right? Like we all drank the Kool-Aid, we believe in the company because they're fantastic, but we did that to ourselves. We injected that shit into our veins to where it literally pours out of you to the point that we're making jokes like, when I bleed little steaks because we're Texas Roadhouse. Like, why do we do that to ourselves? Because that's it. Like, we're doing it to ourselves. You put all of this stuff on you, you stay in this burnout cycle. It does get exploited. Of course, they're going to take
Hmm.
advantage of it. It's a business, right? But
Yeah.
we're doing
Hmm.
it to ourselves. We started this conversation talking about laughing about having to set boundaries, but like that's rule number one. If you can handle more, it doesn't mean that you should have to, right? You don't have to take on more just because you can. What do you want your life to look like? And how can you work in it around that to feed the life that you want to have? Versus having this job that overflows into your life and you have to piece life around that. Like that was such an eye-opening statement. I can't remember what
Hmm.
episode we were talking about that on, but I was like, that's it. That's what I did. And I didn't identify it as such at the time. But those boundaries will shape what your entire life looks like.
Yeah. And this conversation is really focused on the high performers. Some people don't have the opportunity to set those boundaries. Like you hear those people who are like, 6 people quit and now I'm doing the job of 4 people. That's just bad management and a company
Yeah.
that doesn't care about you at all. What I think happened to us is that they allowed us to do this and we should have set those boundaries. So the
Yeah.
boundaries
They were
are,
grateful that we were willing.
yeah. Yeah, so the boundaries are something that we could totally set. I'm not sure that people in those settings that I just mentioned could do this, but I should have set boundaries. I should have said, I will
Yeah.
do my job plus this much more instead of like, oh, you have that for me? Yeah. And you just keep piling it on. And it felt like
Yeah.
a badge of honor. And that is an unhealthy way to think when you're trying to not just work, like you'd like to do
Yeah.
other things in your life as well.
Well, I think that we just should have been more strategic about what extra work that we took on because one of the other things that I think you have to do to break this cycle is to learn how to say no and delegate where you can. And that was no, like, how am I going to say no to like an opportunity to grow and do more, or even just say no to what my boss is asking me to do? Like, how's that even a possibility? But the fact is, it is. And the concept of delegating where it's possible, like, we were in a position where I didn't feel like, well, there was a lot of work delegated to us in the name of development. And that is a little tongue in cheek, because on one hand, I do feel like it was like oh, I'm going to pass this on so that I can focus on something bigger. But like, those were the things that I lived for. Those were the types of projects or the additional work that I really got passionate about because I was learning.
That's what we loved about the job, but you can't only do that. So
Right.
then you have to do a lot extra to be able to do the things you really love.
And I found that I was taking on extra things, even if it was something that I wasn't interested in. It was more, it might get me recognized. I might learn something. I don't know if I'm interested in it or not. It might end up being a total pain in the ass. I have no idea. But yes, 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 please give it to me. To the point where you take on so many of these extra tasks, and it's like, are any of these things actually getting me towards my goals? Or am I just trying to like be the winner? And I think a lot of times I was just trying to win. I was trying to take every opportunity that I could, because if I say no to an opportunity, maybe they won't throw me the next one.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that was definitely a thing. But you started talking about delegation, and that was something that was a little bit an option for us to delegate, but not very much. But some people do have people to
Yeah,
delegate to,
we could
and
have
they should
done a
use
way
that.
better job. We could have done a way better job of that. And I think that those, you have to look for those opportunities, right? Like, it's like I said, like, what work are you doing that is actually helping you get towards your goal? And what work is just a product of like the reality that you live in and it just has to be done? Like, those sort of tasks are things that can be somebody else's development, right? Like, there's got to be, in almost every role, there's somebody coming behind you that is wanting to be in your shoes, right? And I felt guilty where it's like, well, I'm not in charge of your paycheck. I'm not going to be able to give you anything for this. And I don't want to feel taken advantage of and put more work on me to not get anything out of it. So it didn't feel right to do that to somebody else. All the while, the reasons that I took on additional work for that development, for the opportunity and the growth, is exactly the same reason that the people underneath you want it and would be glad to do it too. So if you can pass that on, we've got to get out of the trap of like trusting other people to do it. It was very hard for me to delegate work and trust that somebody else was going to do it as
Yeah.
good as me or as fast as me or whatever, and that it wouldn't be more work for me to go back and redo what you did and make life harder on me.
Yeah, because that's literally the motto of a high achiever. If I want something done right, I'll do it myself, right? I
Yeah.
mean, or control freak, same, same thing.
Yeah, it
And
kind of rolls
and
in
it
there
is
too.
hard.
But even to that point, that's something that follows you post corporate too. Like, that's a life thing, right? In my home, I hope my kids don't listen to this episode because I really freaking hate my youngest daughter will sometimes be a helper and unload the dishwasher, and she doesn't put things up correctly and she doesn't load the dishwasher correctly. And I would rather her just go to her room and let me do it so that I know that it's done right, rather than having to like look for something because she put it in the wrong place. And like, that is not a great parenting like perspective to be coming at this from. And I don't want her to know that I don't want her to do it, because I really sometimes need the help. And she needs to like learn to be a functioning person in a household and contribute. But like, it's so easy to just do it yourself because it's faster.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, you're getting things off your list that have to be done when you do it yourself. And it might be faster to do it yourself today. But if you could get it off your list because you give it away, then next week, your list is shorter, man. It's a lot more manageable. You have more bandwidth. You could take on more. You could, expand your business a little further, or figure out what you actually want to spend your time on that's going to get you where you want to go, because you're not doing all this
Yeah.
busy work, basically.
Yeah,
And you
it
still
really
do
does.
that, by the way.
It really does help. Well, I don't want to burden people,
Right.
like I
It's
don't
a
want to
guilt thing.
ask people to do things that I know are my responsibility, just so that I can do things that I find more interesting. That feels like shit,
It feels
right?
mean.
That's
It does.
yeah. And obviously if I hire an assistant, that's a totally different thing. Like that's your job. I'm paying you specifically to
Yeah,
do
because
that.
you're being
But
compensated.
in the scenario that we're in right now, it makes me feel like shit to ask you guys to do stuff that you're not specifically getting paid for, because I'm going to spend my time doing something that's a more fun part of the job. Like that just kind of sucks.
But the good part about where you're at is that the people that you work with see the bigger picture too. Like I
Yeah.
know that if you have to do X, Y, and Z that I can do for you and I have the time and the ability and like it's not
Mm-hmm.
going to put me in a state of burnout. If I can take something off your plate, if Mallory can take something off your plate that frees up that time for
Mm-hmm.
you to grow the business and bring us more things that actually put money in our pocket, like help me help you help me. Basically, it's
It all
like
works out, but that's not always the corporate structure. It's the
no.
passing of more work without more pay, and that, it feels similar to me
Yeah, it
sometimes, right? And so that's
yeah,
why I don't pass it off.
but I think that in the corporate world it just feels like shit rolls downhill and I don't want to be
Hmm.
that person that's just, shoveling more shit to the guy underneath me, but and I always
Hmm.
loved how it's always like framed as an opportunity for growth and development and it's like I want to make fun of it, but that's the part that really
Yeah.
fed me. That's the part that I got
Hmm.
passionate about because I was climbing that ladder and it felt like the best way to get there was to learn the person whose job you want. And it is
Hmm.
really smart, but it also feeds that cycle of burnout. So if you can break that or be strategic where your yeses come, a yes better be a hell yes and no's, like if
Hmm.
they don't serve you, feel free to say it. The other thing that I think that people are scared to do to break this cycle is to have the conversation with your leadership. You know,
Hmm.
I really do want to
It is
take on this
so hard.
project. It is hard.
It is.
It is hard.
It's so hard because you have to admit that you're not good enough. Possibly, maybe that's
Or
how it
not
makes you
committed
feel.
enough, or I'm not, yeah, I'm
Hmm.
not willing to
Hmm.
do
Not a team
extra.
player. Hmm.
Hmm.
Yep. And whenever you do that, it proves one your what do you call it? It proves your imposter syndrome, right? I'm not good enough. Now they're
Yeah,
not
but
going to think that
again,
I'm
that's
good
another
enough.
lie. It's another
It
lie
is.
in your
Those are
head.
those are lies, but it's like you said before, I'm not going to be given the good projects if I don't say yes to every project. That is a big problem, right? And at the toll that it takes is your personal life and your health and your, your mental
Yeah.
stability and all of those things. So hopefully, I hope that every single person that listens to this has a boss that they can talk to, and that it's never going to be taken the wrong way. And if you don't, then I mean, we would love to help you through that conversation. Send us a DM. We would love to try and help you through
Seriously.
having that conversation.
But as
But
a leader,
talk to them.
I always much preferred that if a problem were brought to me, that you bring me potential solutions as well. Like, don't just come to
Hmm.
me and say, I can't do this, I'm going to be burnt out. It's like,
Hmm.
identify the tasks that maybe are not as meaningful to you anymore and could be passed on to someone else, or identify the things that are maybe redundant or processes that need to be streamlined to free up some space. Like, come up with those solutions. And if you already have them, like have a voice, use your voice and say, this system is broken. I'm taking on more work, but there's only so many hours in the day. At the very least, Miss Boss, Mr. Boss, can you tell me which ones are priority and work from there because you only are
Only so
one
much can
person.
be done. Yeah, only
Absolutely.
so much can be done in that period of time. No, that's all really smart. That's really smart. I hope that those conversations go well for anyone who decides to have them. What I think is the biggest help to break these cycles is therapy or coaching or something like that, because some of it is okay, maybe not some of it. We've talked about this a bunch of times. A lot of it is self induced, right? You did
Hmm.
this to yourself because you are a certain way.
Yeah.
It's not, sometimes it's just a healthy work ethic. Sometimes it is I push myself because I have to prove this, because I need these accolades, because, and not that you should be fixed for being a high performer, right? But if you're
Hmm.
doing it for the wrong reasons, you might need to change your mindset a little bit, and coaching or
But you have
therapy
to
could
slow
help
down
that.
long enough. You have to slow down long enough to identify why you're doing what you're doing. And I
Yeah.
think that therapy and coaching is a really great place to do that, to identify what's
Hmm.
actually happening. Because
Yeah.
sometimes when you're in it, like we're making all kinds of like references to things that happened and what we went through and why we whatever, but we weren't able to do that in the moment. We're only able to do that in retrospect. You know, when you stop and pause and look back at what actually has happened and what was driving you in those moments, like our life slowed down. We're able to pause and reflect now. If you give yourself the time to pause and reflect with a therapist or a coach or somebody, even a friend who's willing to sit and go, hey, stop, let's think about this. What are you actually doing? That can be life changing, like truly life changing. And another big part of it is that you have to realize that just by slowing down and resting, taking care of yourself, that's not laziness. Like that's maintenance. You can go farther. You can go farther in the long run if you pace yourself than if you, blow all your steam in the very beginning, right? Like you can't, we're not Energizer bunnies. Our batteries do run out and you have to slow down and recharge.
Absolutely. And so we don't know the woman, the high performer coach that we played her video. We don't know her at all. We just think that she's smart.
Yeah.
Look her up on TikTok. She is a coach for high performers. So she could be a good spot to, watch 20 of her videos and see if she speaks to you. She could have some kind of coaching. Didn't look into it, but
well, I followed her. She got a follower.
Yeah, me too. So, but if you give her a follow, she might have some really good tips for you that you don't actually have to. It'll make you think, right? That's what I like about these types of videos on TikTok is that they make you think about things and they make you relate to things, and you go, the problem might be me, or the problem might be this one thing that I just need to set this one boundary with this one person. And now we've made a big change where you can still be a high performer, but not one that burns out.
Yeah. And I will say, some of you may be sitting in the chair just like us going, wow, I had no idea that I was a high performer. I never would have thought of myself as that way. But what I think is really cool is being able to look at these experiences and seeing what feels like failure, right? The things where it was like, man, I was really dropping the ball. I was really I couldn't hack it, if you will, is really coming from a place of my really, really great qualities. Like these things don't happen to people who suck. Like you got to take the win here,
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like these really great qualities that you were gifted or worked really hard for, whatever is the case, they can have consequences if you don't open your eyes and pay attention. This has been really therapeutic conversation.
It is. And truly, I hope that people get things out of our podcast, but if they don't, we do. So
I know. I
just
was about to
talking
say,
it through.
I feel way better about my life. I'm like, look at me as a high achiever. I don't know what I'm a high achiever. I'm high achieving a paycheck. That's what I'm high achieving right now.
Yeah, very much so. No, I love this. I did love this conversation. This will not be the last time that we talk about high achievers now that we, that we understand it better. This will be something that will break down probably further and hopefully at some point have some sort of an expert on, because again, there's so much that can be done.
I also wanted to throw out there that if there is any aspect of this episode that you want us to dive into deeper, let us know. Shoot us a DM. Check out the website, thecorporateburnouts.com, and send a message to us. We want to dive in deeper where it's going to be meaningful to our listeners.
And we still want your secrets, so please go to thecorporateburnouts.com. Put your secret on there. They're completely anonymous, so no one will ever know that it came from you. But we want to share this. This is therapeutic for you to get this all out of your system and let us talk about it on the podcast, because that's fun for us and hopefully for you.
Well, we're ready to get to the tea. It's good stuff.
Yes.
Well, thanks for hanging out with us another week. We will see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.